Hello and welcome to another episode of Leading You. I'm Julie Hyde and it is about 35 degrees in Melbourne today and it's really hot in the house. So I hope I don't melt while I'm talking to you today. Thank you for joining me. I'm really grateful for you being here as always, because without you, this podcast would be nothing. But I want to talk to you today about something I'm really passionate about and something that annoys me so much. We hear it every day and we hear it everywhere. Women are told to speak up more, put your hand up, be more visible, don't sit back, take up space. And on the surface, that sounds really empowering. And I totally agree with it fundamentally. It sounds like confidence. It sounds like progress. But here's what I know to be true. After years of working with smart and capable women, and not only women, but men as well in leadership and business, that advice is incomplete, especially now, especially in the landscape that we are operating in. Because speaking up on its own is not a strategy. In fact, speaking up without clarity, without anchoring, without direction can actually weaken your position rather than strengthen it. I've worked with women who are brilliant, trusted, respected, experienced. They speak in meetings, they share ideas, they're visible, and yet they're still being overlooked. They're not being seen for their potential and for their next level, which is what they are ready for. So they stay same. So today I want to talk to you about why speaking up is fundamentally flawed advice, speaking up on its own, and what actually needs to be in place first if you want your voice to carry weight, influence, and credibility. So speaking up is not the strategy, it's an expression of one. Visibility without clarity is just exposure. Because what we often do is show up as the past version of ourselves. We show up in a way that has worked for us in the past, but is potentially not going to work for us in the future. We often show up in a way where we're shape-fitting, where we're people-pleasing, where we're trying to not ruffle feathers and keep the peace. Talking more is not taken seriously. Many women are visible, but they're not influential. Like they're seen, they're in the meetings, they're at the table, they're at the events, but they're not influencing. They're doing. And without an underlying strategy, speaking up becomes reactive and not powerful. So speaking up is not the strategy, it's the outcome of clarity. It's the outcome of being anchored to who you are, what you stand for, where you're going next, not where you've come from, not where you've been. And that's a big distinction. Now, relevance plays a big part here because of the environment that we're in right now. People don't necessarily listen to volume. They listen to value, of course. You can talk so much in a meeting, but your voice might not land because you're not speaking volume, you're just talking. And the difference between participating and contributing is that difference. It's where you bring something valuable to the conversation. It's knowing where you add disproportionate impact and being known for something specific, not just everything, not being a doer, but something specific where you're adding value. And according to where you're wanting to go next, like your next level, and what's happening in your marketplace, whether that be in your organization or whether that be in the marketplace that you're operating in if you're an entrepreneur. You've got to make sure that you're relevant to that, relevant to the change, relevant to where the organization is heading, relevant to your clients, all the generations in business, relevant to your team. And that you bring not just capability, but you bring influence and impact. So what I would love you to explore is right now, what am I actually known for? Where do I need to move that needle? And what problems do people ask me to solve? Am I known for being asked and trusted to contribute to the big problems? Or am I just asked to do and stopgap? And there can be variations of that, of course, but they're three big questions to ask yourself. Because anchoring is something, it's worked for me significantly. And I shared a couple of podcasts ago about being known for the wrong identity, and that didn't match to where I wanted to go. So I was known as a doer, I was not known as a leader. So what I had to do was anchor myself into who I was and what I stood for and live true to that, behave in a way that reflected that. Unanchored leaders can often shape fit into rooms. You know, you can change depending on who you're with, whether it's your leader, your peer, your team, and that can cause some real confusion with your brand, confusion with your identity. It's like, you know, Julie's not showing up in a consistent way. She's one thing to these people and she's one thing to me. I'm just really confused where she's at. You know, agreeing and softening and over-explaining or staying quiet to stay safe is not a strategy. So if you're not anchored, you'll speak to survive quite often rather than to lead. So we really need to be anchored in that place of your values, your standards, your boundaries, and your own self-leadership, who you are and what you stand for. Otherwise, you can just be that ship without a rudder and going to where the tide takes you, according to who you're with that fear of not ruffling feathers, not wanting to upset anyone. Be that people pleaser, because that can be how you're known, and a lot of women are known for that. And it can be hard, it can be challenging to change that, but it's definitely something that you can do. And my story alone is testament to that. And I have heaps of client stories who have actually done that as well. So your positioning is what gives weight to your words. It's your voice carries more when you are connected, when you're anchored to where you're going, right? To your next level, to how you want to be seen for your next opportunity. Without that direction, your contributions can feel quite scattered. So you're commenting versus shaping conversations. You know, you can just be saying stuff. And I know so many leaders who do this. They're constantly talking, but when you really look beneath the surface, you sort of think, what are they actually saying? And you can look at our political arena for really great public examples of this. They speak a whole lot of words. There's not a lot of substance to them. And it's like, who are they and what do they stand for? Right? Great examples there. So positioning turns opinions into authority. So talk about, you know, what does your contributions to the next role look like? What are you wanting to influence? How are you wanting to influence? Is that within your organization, within your network, so that you get known for something specific, so that when people hear of an opportunity, they think of you? Is it getting known so if a client is wanting something, people think of you, right? What is the legacy that you're wanting to build? That's so important, because you don't want to be creating your legacy by chance. You want to be creating it by choice. And getting known for your brand. Julie Hyde is. Sarah is. Your Carlo is. And being really relevant in your marketplace. And that's all about your positioning. It's all about how you show up. Doing things right. It's just not the game that we want to be playing anymore. It's doing things different and positioning yourself really effectively. So before you do anything, and maybe these are really great reflection questions for you to ask at the end of the day, thinking about the strategy that you're thinking about executing. Is this aligned with what I want to be known for? So this is tapping into your relevance. Am I speaking from truth or fear? And this is anchoring into who you are and what you stand for. And does this move me to my next chapter, which is tapping into your positioning? If two or more are no, you really need to pause. And this is not about being silent. It's about strategic restraint. Because you don't want to be showing up in a way or positioning yourself in a way that is not relevant to where you're wanting to go. You don't want to be showing up in a way and speaking up in a way that's going to keep you anchored to where you are right now, or render you irrelevant in your marketplace, within your organization, amongst your peers, and with your leaders. That is the real danger of speaking up without substance. So speaking up with strategy is the key here, and that can be the game changer for you. So here's what I want to leave you with. You don't need to be louder. You need to be clearer. You need to have that clarity. You don't need more airtime. You need more alignment. And you don't need to force your voice in every room. You do need to build the kind of presence that make people lean in when you speak. And when you're clear on who you are and what you stand for and where you're going, speaking up stops feeling like an effort. It becomes natural, it becomes grounded, and it becomes influential because your voice carries weight. And that is self-leadership in essence. That is positioning in its essence. So if this podcast resonated with you, take a moment to reflect. Where might you be visible but not fully positioned? Think in your career, think in your business, think in your network. Your network is key. And what would you change if you led from clarity instead of just reaction or habit? Just playing out the role that you've always played because you know it. What would happen if you changed? So as always, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now.